Hi, I'm Chris Wardlaw for CarGurus, and today we're standing on a windy ridge near Malibu, California, talking about the updated 2016 Mitsubishi Outlander. Now, Mitsubishi says it's made over 100 changes to this vehicle for this year, and if you want to find out what all of those are, all you have to do is go to the Mitsubishi website. You'll find a page that looks very much like this. Now, the most obvious change to most people is going to be the restyled front end. This represents Mitsubishi's new dynamic shield design language. And while that looks great on the Mitsubishi EX concept that the company introduced at this year's Tokyo Motor Show, I'm not sure it works so well plastered on the front of last year's Outlander. What about the other changes though? Do they make this SUV more appealing? We're going to go for a drive and find out. Before we start talking about the Outlander, I want to make it clear that I'm kind of rooting for Mitsubishi. I don't like to see any company fail. And I really hope that they find a path back to where they were maybe 15 years ago when they were building some really interesting cars, when the Outlander was one of the first small crossover SUVs you could buy. So with that said, let's get into it. The Outlander that we're driving today is painted diamond white, and it's the SEL trim level, which is new for 2016. It sits between the SE and the GT. It's got a 4-cylinder engine, but it's loaded up with leather and all the nice stuff that has historically been reserved for the GT model. The cost of my test car is just over $33,000, and that's because it has an option package on it that puts a lot of infotainment technology, comfort, convenience items, and safety equipment. What it doesn't install is a blind spot warning system, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. A 4-cylinder engine sits under the hood. It's a 2.4 liter, it's making 166 horsepower, and it's charged with motivating almost 3,500 pounds of SUV. So it's got its work cut out for it. But this year there's a new continuously variable transmission that actually does a pretty good job of keeping the engine in the thick of its power band when you need the power, and then dropping RPM to try and conserve fuel when you don't need the power. Mitsubishi's made a whole bunch of other changes. They've retuned the suspension. They've done some other things with regard to driving dynamics. I'm not sure that the effort was beneficial. And the reason is because aside from the fact that I think the CVT does a pretty good job and I like the brakes, and not just because sometimes when I use them it means I'm about to get out of the Outlander, this thing really is soft and mushy. In fact, coming down a mountain road from elevation to sea level, it reminded me of a big, giant white marshmallow just rolling down the mountain. Now, the driving dynamics issue is a real shame because the Outlander's interior is actually really nice. They got rid of that really cheesy, light brown burl fake wood from last year. They've replaced it with a more modern fake, it's like a gray striated trim. The seats are comfortable. The back seat is really roomy, and it actually looks fairly upscale in here. The interior makes me feel like, yeah, maybe 33 grand isn't too much to spend on this. One thing that might draw people to the Outlander is the third row seat, which is really unusual in this class. The problem is twofold. Number one, adults don't fit in it. I'm not even going to try and show you what it's like for me to try and squeeze myself into that third row seat. So it's really best used for kids, but it's so close to the rear tailgate that as a parent with 2 little kids of my own, I'm not sure I could actually put kids back there because you never know what's going to happen, right? I mean, just yesterday, I was driving this, I was on my test loop, I was in my neighborhood, I look in my rearview mirror and some dude in a Nissan Sentra who was either drunk or had fallen asleep completely missed a curve in the road, hit a dumpster that was parked by the curb, went up, hit a wall in front of a house, and flipped up onto its roof. Now, if you've got kids in the third row seat and a moron like that comes up behind you, your kids are basically sitting in the crush zone. So my advice would be just fold that third row seat down, pretend it doesn't exist, and just use this as a 5-passenger vehicle. Another thing the Outlander offers is an optional V6 engine. Again, a rarity in the small compact crossover class. The V6 only makes 225 horsepower, or I'm sorry, it was 224 horsepower, and it requires premium fuel. And it's a lot less fuel efficient than this 4-cylinder is, which isn't all that fuel efficient. Right now, I'm averaging about 24 miles per gallon. I've spent a lot of time on the highway today. 24 miles per gallon is the city rating. So I'm not sure where the EPA is coming up with its numbers for this vehicle, but in my experience, the Outlander doesn't really hit the targets. One thing about the Outlander that I really like is that this is a pretty safe vehicle. It gets really decent crash test scores from the federal government. The all-wheel drive model actually gets a 5-star rating, while the 2-wheel drive model gets a 4-star rating. The reason is that the all-wheel drive model has a slightly lower propensity to roll over in an accident. The Insurance Institute for Highway Safety hasn't rated the 2016 Outlander yet, but last year this was a top safety pick. And if the IIHS decides to carry that rating forward, it should apply for the 2016 calendar year as well, because the Outlander got good ratings in all of those assessments. Now, another area where the Outlander really could stand some improvement is with regard to infotainment technology. Now, in base trim, this vehicle is not that expensive. It's only about $24,000, which might look really appealing to younger buyers. Now, the thing is younger buyers really want the latest in technology. Now, you've got satellite radio, HD radio, you've got a 710 watt Rockford Fosgate premium audio system, but what you don't have are any types of connected services, like automatic collision notification. You don't have a Wi-Fi hotspot. You can't connect your smartphone using Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. And these are all technologies that are becoming increasingly available and important to a certain demographic. So Mitsubishi's really got to step up its efforts there. At the start of this review, I mentioned that I really do hope that Mitsubishi finds its path to success, and I really mean that. And I know it sounds like I've come down hard on what is essentially a safe, roomy crossover SUV with great ground clearance. But the thing is that until Mitsubishi finds what its brand stands for, until it finds a niche to own, until it brings out styling that people absolutely have to have parked in their driveway, it is going to continue to be a wallflower and ride the bench in the automotive industry. Be sure to see my full review on the Outlander on CarGurus.com, and feel free to offer comments at the bottom of this video. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel because we're constantly putting new videos up. And for everybody here at CarGurus, thanks for watching. I am rolling. Man, is it windy up here. Hey, hold on a second.